Hey everybody, so this video is going to be talking about the skeletal muscle cells, also known as the muscle fibers. So before we get into that, just keep in mind there's going to be some new terms here, and that is because we're going to be looking at muscles in a little more detail. And with that said, there's going to be some terms that are used and are similar to terms we learned in the past. So for example, right here, the sarcolemma is a new term, but it is the plasma membrane of a muscle fiber. Right? So we have a different name for it because it's in the muscle. Same thing below here when we're looking at the sarcoplasm, which is another name for the cytoplasm, but in muscles. So just keep that in mind. That said, the plasma membrane of a muscle fiber or the sarcolemma has these very very specific characteristics of transverse T tubules. These are things that we find within the sarcolemma that are really important and really a signature of the muscle fibers. These two tubules we'll talk about in 1 second below. Another thing important to keep in mind are that the muscle fibers are multinucleated, meaning that there are more than one nucleus in these fibers, in these cells. So again, there's some pretty significant differences between these cells and other cells we've discussed already. Continuing on to the second part, the sarcoplasm, or the cytoplasm of the muscle, contains these myofibrils that make up the cells, and also made up of these myofilaments. These myofilaments are going to be the actin and myosin. Going into the third part here, the sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to be extremely important for the muscle cells because they are going to be a reservoir or a location within the cell that are going to hold a ton of calcium. And that's really important because when we start talking about muscle contractions and action potentials, we're going to start to learn about how calcium is so important for the contraction of muscle cells. So the sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to join up with these T tubules that we talked about above, these transverse T tubules, and they're going to form the terminal cisternae of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. All right. So that said, really important, and these T tubules are going to be moving that calcium throughout the cell so that the muscle can get the calcium needed to contract. Last thing here is that the sarcoplasm is going to contain an abundance of glycogen and myoglobin. So if we think back to chapter 4, we didn't talk about myoglobin yet, but myo is muscle and globin has to do with the oxygen storage. So it's a component of the molecule that is going to be having to do with holding onto oxygen, right? Again, if you're doing cellular respiration, you're going to want to have oxygen and sugar, so glucose. So the myoglobin is going to hold onto that oxygen so that the muscles have it immediately, and then the glycogen is going to have that glucose because glycogen is going to be is energy storing, so that your muscles can have the glycogen and the myoglobin, the sugar and the oxygen to do cellular respiration quickly and in the muscle itself. So he doesn't have to go and wait or find energy whenever you need it. So for example, if I want to wave to the camera right now, all of the glycogen and the myoglobin in my muscles contain the energy I need, the glucose I need, and the oxygen that I need in order to make that happen. I don't have to wait for my body to get it and send it to my muscles. That's the idea. And then here we go below. Here's an image the of the cell and all the components within it. Take a few minutes, look it over, and if you have any questions about what we discussed, please let me know.